and my all dear friend. Today my presentation topic is a critique on a second language acquisition, behaviorist theory and cognitive theory differential. First, my start presentation. I have quote on a Gujarati language who spoken by Einstein. હું કદી શીખવતો નથી પણ હું એવા સંજોગ પેદા કરું છું જેના કારણે વિદ્યાર્થીઓ વર્ગમાં શીખે. અહીં there is a learning. First, my start second language acquisition. Researchers and focus on the developing knowledge and use of language by children and adults who already know at least one another language. About 25 years ago, a psychologist named Stephen Krashen transformed the language teaching. He had been developing his idea over a number of years, but several books he published in 1980s received a general acceptance. Much has been made from Krashen's theory of second language acquisition, which consists of five main hypotheses. The acquisition hypothesis is the acquisition learning hypothesis, the monitor hypothesis, the natural order hypothesis, the input hypothesis, and the effective filter hypothesis. The acquisition and learning distinction between these images like distant user naturally keep longer and effect on and influence of the second language acquisition, emotional former experience, and how to understand learning this theory, cognitive environmental influences. Acquisition is a first subconsciousness, and next is the related to pick up words and language and text. Next when are learning that conscious and knowing about words and text. Learning theories are conceptual framework describe how information is absorbed, processed, and rational during learning. Learning a language on the other hand is a conscious process, much like what one experiences in a school. New knowledge or language forms are represented consciously in the learner's mind, frequently in the form of language rules and grammar, and the process often involves error correction. Learning is a very important thing. It was a very understood many of the such of aspects like learning as a belonging, community, identity, learning as a becoming, meaning, practice, learning as a doing, and learning as an experience. When we observe, when we learn anyone, there are three questions in our mind: how to observe that, what to observe how to understand, and what to apply. Next, the acquisition and learning distinctions. Acquisitions subconscious by environment, example like games, movie, and radio. Pick up in words and second language. When we learn that considered by instructor, correct errors, and knowing about grammar rules, that second language acquisition made by our knowledge and understand. The behaviorist look at learning and aspect of conditioning, then acquisition of native language, behaviorist theory, and mentalist theory. Behaviorism is a language developed as habit formation. A person learning to start with habits formed in L1 and transfer. These habits they interfere with the new ones need for a second language. I saw a video about behaviorism theory and psychology. Video is very long, but I have edited and cut and some main aspect in this important of the video. Let's show the video.
actions, whether by man or animal, are all learned behaviors and can be learned and unlearned. So the first thing a lot of people think about when they hear, and check out the underlying theory, which originally didn't have much to do with language at all. I'm talking about behavioral psychology. The idea that all actions, whether by man or animal, are all learned behaviors and can be learned and unlearned. So the first thing a lot of people think about when they hear behavioral psychology is Pavlov's dogs. If you've ever taken an intro to psychology class, you'll probably remember that Pavlov was the guy who rang a bell every time he fed his dogs. And eventually, the dogs learned to associate the sound of the bell with food. And as a result, they salivated every time the bell rang, whether there was food or not. In a nutshell, Pavlov discovered a process in which a previously neutral stimulus came to evoke a specific response by being repeatedly paired with another stimulus that evoked the response. And psychologists came to call this classical conditioning. So psychologists eventually expanded on Pavlov's findings, and the result was a new type of conditioning called operant conditioning, a theory that's usually attributed to an American psychologist named Skinner. If a reward or reinforcement follows the response to a stimulus, then the response becomes more likely in the future. Makes sense, right? So what does all this have to do with second language acquisition? Well, in the 50s and 60s, it became popular to apply behavioral psychology to all types of learning, including language learning. Two psychologists most known for applying behavioral psychology to learning, and especially language learning, are Watson and the already mentioned Skinner. This application of behavioral psychology to language learning eventually led to the behaviorist theory of second language acquisition. So, what exactly is the behaviorist theory of SLA, or second language acquisition? Well, take a look. The foreign language behavior learner is the organism whose behavior is being conditioned. The behavior is verbal behavior. The stimulus is what is taught or presented of the foreign language. The response is then the learner's reaction to the stimulus. And the reinforcement is the approval and praise of the teacher and fellow students, as well as self-satisfaction. Language mastery is represented as acquiring a set of appropriate language stimulus response chains. So with this in mind, we can take a brief look at
next, cognitive theory means the relating to being or involving conscious intellectual activity. Cognitive theory come about as a reaction to behaviorism. Intellectual activity is a remembering, discerning, factual knowledge. Next, psychology and cognitive relationship is a understanding of knowledge, formation of beliefs and attitudes, decision making, problem solving, psychological process acquisitions. Next, some behaviorist theorists are B.F. Skinner, Ivan Pavlov, J.B. Watson, James J.B. Watson, Thorndike. Here, Thorndike, Edward L. Thorndike's pioneer investigation in the field of human and animal learning are among the most influential in the history of psychology. The behaviorist theory depends on the analysis of human behavior. The Thorndike, the puzzle box, and the theory simulation response of psychology. Next, simulation response, the behaviorist theory of simulation response learning, particularly as a development in the operant conditioning model of Skinner, considers all learning to be the establishment of habit as a result or reinforcement and reward. In this, the green color not shown because of Gujarati writing. So sorry. That simulation and child response to positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement, and when a Skinner's operation condition that behavior consequence positive reinforcement and negative punishment that likely repeat behavior, unlikely repeat to behavior. Cognitive theory replaced the behavioristic theory in 1968, involving acting thinking, teachers' active role, stress prior knowledge, interested in how students understand materials. Major contributors of cognitive theories like Alan Peyo, Howard Gardner, Benjamin Bloom, Robert Gang, and here chart that create first starting remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Next, division of the theory. Cognitive theory domain is the student's intellectual ability. Benjamin Bloom's cognitive theory is divided into analysis, understanding, evaluation, create, apply, and remember. According to cognitive theory, activities like thinking are and remembering seem like a behavior. It provides an avenue to use behavior analysis to measure their effect of learning. And behavior is activity of thinking and remembering. Cognitive theory stems from traditional psychology concept of thinking, and cognitive views actives such as thinking, deciding, and remembering items of how they undesirable behavior. Next, behaviorist theory is regarding limitation and reinforcement scope behaviorist theory. And next, behaviorism emphasizing simulate and response, but ignoring the mental process that are involved in learning. To sum up this photograph in fourth standard books, nowadays our education system are very highly influence of many psychological theory that when we job in a teacher and this field તો આ મુજબના ચિત્રો બતાવીને વિદ્યાર્થીને અંગ્રેજીની સૂચનાઓ અનુસાર ક્રિયા કરો means that when learning through activity that acquisitions are very important and in this goal and that learning is very important to what to understanding of student. Next, prayer and this for English standard 4, but also apply in 5, 6 and 7 standard book are very interesting book. So thank you.